This is Lewis Hart for Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and William Hill. Delighted to be joined with Chris Billam-Smith here in Leyton at McGuigans gym. How are you, mate? How's things?
Yeah, all good, thank you, mate. All good. How are you?
All good, mate. All the better for speaking to you. Just sort of ticking over now after, you are a world champion. How's things been really? Just ticking over, waiting for a date. We know Lawrence has activated the rematch clause, but how's things been sort of in the gym? Just keeping ticking over?
Yeah. Just same old, nothing changes. Come back in the gym and you aim to improve. There's no special treatment. It's just knuckling down, and I'm not retired. So if I'm not retired, I'm still looking to improve in my craft.
Absolutely. Well, we know that Lawrence has activated the rematch clause after your fight in May. What is the situation there? What's sort of going on? I know you probably leave a lot of that to your management, but I'm sure you're just eager to get a date now, really.
Yeah, he's obviously activated it, so I was half expecting to be end of November. That's when we said we'd like to fight, and that's always been the plan, end of November. So just waiting to hear, really. I think it'd be him or Masterneck. I think the only reason it won't be Lawrence is issues with broadcasters not wanting to headline with him for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's just that I'm ready to go at end of November. So that's me training for. Obviously, sparring wise, you'd ideally like to know what style you're fighting, if it's Masterneck or Lawrence, because very different styles, but I've done enough rounds in the past with both sort of styles, so I'm confident going into either fight.
Would there be some sort of frustrations if it's not November or start of December?
Yeah, I think so for me, massively, because that means I only box once this year, so I'll be massively disappointed if it's not then. Yeah, I'll, especially as world champion, you don't want to be waiting and putting dates off. And look, I was out, obviously out in May, and I hadn't boxed since December before then. So only having that, even though only 2 fights in a calendar year is not a huge amount anyway. So ideally, I'd want to be out 3 times a year minimum. So this year, I was obviously looking at twice, so I'd be massively disappointed if it was only the once.
Definitely. Well, you are now a world champion, and you say there, you're going to have this world champion mentality. We're talking a little bit off camera about sort of the mentality switch. How much of a switch has it been as a world title, and the downtime after, 2, 3, 4 weeks after winning the world title? What's that been like, the downtime, and sort of how you feel now, 4 months after you have won it?
Yeah, I think I flick in between sort of, teenage me and amateur version of me thinking, wow, amazing, like, I can't believe, like, pinch yourself sort of thing. But then I look at all the work I've put in and how I've got to this position, and it's like, you look at it practically and you're like, well, of course you've won a world title, because you put in all that work and you've compromised on so much, and continue to do that. So I sort of go in between the two, where I know I deserve it because of the journey I've been on, but at the same time, it's still like that person who first walked in a boxing gym is like, wow, like you've done it at the pinnacle of the sport. And yeah, so it's sort of going between the two, depending what mood I'm in. But when I'm in sort of in the gym during the week and training and stuff, it's very much like, okay, now what's next? And I need to improve on that last performance. I need to improve as a fighter and as an athlete. So that's just that constant striving forward.
Absolutely. And with you saying there, do you ever have much time to yourself where you sit down and you think, your career, you've got so much more ahead of you, you're only just a world champion now, this might only be the start for you, but do you ever have much downtime where you think about yourself, where you look at, I brought boxing back to Bournemouth, I boxed, headline in the stadium, won a world title in the stadium. Do you think this is something that you look at the end of your career, not as much opposed to as now?
Yeah, I appreciate it now, but I think, I think it won't be till I look back and, maybe even years to come, if there's kids coming through and saying they started boxing because of that night of the Vitality and stuff, then that'll be be phenomenal. But yeah, look, it's I think it's hard to appreciate it fully until I retire, and I'm a long way from that.
And do you feel like you have the 20 or 30% that a world champ of 20-30% better now you're a world champion, or is that something that we'll see potentially in the future?
Yeah, I think so. I think like we were saying off camera, before the pressure was on me, and it felt like a huge weight was on me to win a world title, but that was for me. So it was, but now I've got a new motivation where it's not necessarily for me, it's for my wife, my son, and any other future children if we have them, and my family, and creating a legacy. But that's obviously a long way away, and it comes down to the day-to-day graft in the gym, and not taking your foot off the gas, not taking your eye off the ball, and I think that's key. So for me, it's just the motivation's changed, but it's more than ever because it's not for me anymore, and I can live with probably letting myself down, even though I haven't, but I can't live with letting my family down. So that's more motivation, and anything extra of painful session now, it's, you know, my son and my wife's face come into my mind, and you put that extra work in.
So with what you're saying there, do you feel like you receive more motivation becoming a father and becoming a family and becoming a world champion in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and like I said, the world champion was my dream before I met my wife. So that was for me, but now everything from here is for them.
So, and we'll sort of just touching back on the rematch. Is the idea to have that rematch or the next fight potentially be in Bournemouth again?
Yeah, I think so. I think that'd be the plan. It depends because can't do it at the stadium, and the BIC probably only holds about 3,500, 4,000, and that's the next biggest arena. So I think it depends on that really, who it's against. And yeah, I mean, ideally you want it in Bournemouth, especially off the back of the last fight, because the whole town's still buzzing about it. You know, someone stopped me on the train up here today, saying that they've just moved to the area and they could hear the fight from their house. And yeah, and I think it'd be a shame, but also understandably, there's not a massive load of venues, so we'll have to wait and see.
The cruiserweight division is thriving at the moment. It's always moving quickly, and we see potential big fights coming up. Obviously, one that is signed that's happening in sort of 10 days' time is Opetaia taking on Jordan Thompson. Opetaia's obviously had a lot of attacks on the body since he was last out in July last year against Bradis. He takes on Jordan Thompson. I'm sure you're keeping one eye on that fight, with that being a potential two potential opponents of you in the future. But how do you see that fight going, and do you think that the attacks of that Opetaia has had the past sort of year, 15, 16 months will take a toll?
Yeah, I think it will affect him to a certain degree, or it would have done to a certain degree, but it depends on, you know, he may have shook that off already, and then trained for this fight fully. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see. I don't think you'll see the best Opetaia, which I hope Jordan can take advantage of, because obviously you want a Brit to win. I know Jordan, he was in sparring with me for the last camp, because he was sparring me for Luke Watkins as well, so it worked well for both of us. And he's a good fighter, and he's massive at the weight. He's got a lot of physical advantages on Opetaia, and that's Opetaia had to really graft for the Bradis fight and put a lot of graft in. And Bradis is quite a small cruiserweight as well. He's not massive. He's smaller than me. He's probably 6'1", maybe 6'2". Opetaia is the same, so he's got a big height advantage to overcome against Jordan. So hopefully Jordan can find the shots, and also see how he takes a shot on the jaw, because it's obviously broken once. I'm sure there'll be lasting damage there as well. So yeah, I'll be at the fight. I think I'm working for commentary for one of the radios for that fight. So which I'm really excited about. Get to see it, you know, nice up and close, and yeah, it's I'll definitely be keeping my eyes on it.
With Joe Opetaia, do you think there could be a bit cautious or tentative? Because Josh Warrington came out and said, you know, when he broke his jaw, he was very tentative about worrying getting hit on it again or how it may feel. Do you feel like this tentativeness could come from Opetaia after sort of suffering such a tough fight against Bradis? that might be a problem for him, where he doesn't know how to be on the jaw or his shoulder or all the things that he's been through? Do you think that could be a factor?
Yeah, but then he's going to be sparring. Do you know what I mean? So if it depends, it could go in sparring, it could go this week in sparring, which would be his last week of sparring, I guess. He's also got to come over. I don't know when he's coming over. If I was him, I would have come over already. I would have been here probably a month before. But yeah, he needs to spar, obviously, and he would have done. So it depends how it feels in sparring. He may have felt a few aches in here, so then obviously he'll go into the fight with those lingering doubts, maybe. Same with the shoulder. I've had a shoulder surgery myself a few years ago now, 8 years ago, and afterwards it's kept feeling I've sorted it out now. But yeah, it doesn't always heal as you'd like it to. So it's important to make sure it is, and it'd be really interesting to see how that fight goes. And I just hope Jordan shows him no respect and goes in there and does the job.
Definitely. Last one from me. A lot of talks of Arsen Goulamirian potentially fighting a former foe in yours of Richard Riakporhe, which is obviously something that you will definitely keep an eye on. Is there an exciting prospect for you that you could be potentially facing the winner of that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to fight the winner of that, and I mean, I'd love it more to be Richard for obvious reasons. But yeah, I'd love to fight the winner. Obviously, we tried to fight Goulamirian back in May, and he was difficult, I believe, in negotiations. I wasn't involved in them, so maybe not right for me to say that. But yeah, we tried, obviously, Opetaia and Goulamirian before Lawrence. So yeah, it was obviously I'm happy to fight him, but ideally I'd love Richard to go and do a number on him so we can have our rematch, build a massive fight. I think in the UK, I think that's a huge fight. Sky have only got one male world champion in me at the moment. So for Richard to do that, and then us to put on a show and a rematch, there's history there, and I think it may have a brilliant fight.
Absolutely, Christian. I'll say thank you for the time. Appreciate speaking to you, and all the best for the future, man. I'm sure we'll be catching up soon. Thank you, mate.